SicEm365 Radio. Are you a SicEm365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at SicEm365.com.
All right, here we go. This 3 o'clock hour rolling along. And Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Mavericks. God, it's great to have Chuck on. So many times he's joined us since we launched our show 13 or 14 months ago. And how about the Mavericks up 2 games to none against the Clippers? Chuck, thanks for your time. Did you see this coming?
Can't say I saw a 2-0 lead, but I did see the Mavericks being far more competitive than a lot of people outside of the immediate Maverick world, if you will, who just thought that this was going to be a 5-game series, a gentleman's sweep, that type of thing. They didn't take into account that the Mavericks had played the way they played against the Clippers this year. Did not take into account the difficulty of the series last year. That they're just kind of looking at stars and things and seeing how that plays out, as opposed to actually watching the game and seeing what's happening. And I think that's one of the advantages of watching every game that they play, is that you do get a sense for what they do well and what they don't. And against the Clippers, they obviously they've been terrific in every game they've played against the Clippers this year. The 5 games they've played, they have shot no worse than 49.4% in any of those games. It's absolutely uncanny. And obviously last night was the best of the lot, shooting it the way they shot.
Playoff experience is something you can't, replicate, or, you can't do anything about it in a lab or practice it, or, the regular season doesn't help you with that. But the Mavs got a little bit of it last year, a little bit more. And it looks like Luka now is becoming that playoff player. Do you see that growing in him kind of each and every night, of where he is a dude in the playoffs?
He's a dude, period.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I necessarily see that. What I do see is a bit more demonstrative Luka in a positive vein, not so much complaining to the officials about what is or what isn't. But I think, and maybe this is alluding, Paul, what you were talking about, just the, from last year when you saw the Clippers try to trash talk the Mavericks, try to punk them, and the Mavericks, I won't say they were allowing it to happen, but the Clippers felt really comfortable in doing it. And this time around, the Clippers on some levels are trying to do it, but the Mavericks are having none of it. And indeed, sometimes, and in the case of Luka, we've seen it several times, and especially at the expense of Patrick Beverley, where he just basically, pounded his chest or waved his and wagged his finger a la Dikembe Mutombo, just saying that you can't stop me. You cannot stop me. So from that standpoint, maybe the experience has helped them. But, I think people forget this team was playing really well at the end of the year. They had the best record in the NBA over the last 16 games. They came in on a real high. And I think that was discounted by a lot of people. And, again, not to say that this series is over, because we've seen this before. It hasn't happened often that a team has lost the first 2 games at home and come back to win a series. It's only happened 4 times in NBA history, but we saw the Mavericks do it back in 2005 against the Rockets, so we all know. And, you do have 2 superstar players on the other side who are playing quite well. But right now, the biggest difference is that the Maverick role players, everyone in the 10-man rotation that the Mavericks have used has had a contribution to helping them win in a major way, as opposed to you look at the Clippers and really they have not even come close to getting that type of production from people other than George and Leonard.
Chuck, as you mentioned, they've had a hard time trying to spell how to guard him. I mean, he's either too big or too quick, depending on who's on him. He's sitting there making, one-legged threes. There's not much you can do about that. I mean, how do you think the Clippers try to reevaluate, or does it matter if he's making shots?
Well, this is a $64 million question right now. I'm giving him the Steph Curry treatment that the Lakers gave Curry in that play game. And basically, I'm not letting him bring the ball up the floor. I'm overplaying him. I may even send a second guy at him, and I have to at least try to see without his initiation if we can somehow slow them down if I'm the Clippers. Because obviously the way it's gone in this series, the way it's gone all year long against the Clippers, it just has not worked. It hasn't come close to working. So, I mean, if you're Ty Lue, I mean, really, what is the definition of insanity? Do you go back and do this thing all over again the same way, or you try something different? And I would imagine that they would try the Laker Curry tactic, if you will, at least for some portion of the game on Friday night. I mean, look, I have to believe that at this point that the Clippers are going to have to basically throw the kitchen sink at the Mavericks because they have to win the game.
Yeah.
If they don't win the game, the series is over. All right, because no team has ever come back from 3-0 down to win an NBA playoff series, a 7-game series. So that's basically what it comes down to. If you're the Clippers, you have to throw everything at the Mavericks and at Doncic, and hope that that is the response, that's the correct response. Because otherwise, on Friday night around 11:30 or so, there could be a lot of dancing outside the American Airlines Center.
No question about it. Chuck, the Clippers have Kawhi Leonard, who had 41 last night, and he was drafted into a dynasty with the Spurs, and then also was a big part of what they did. But then he took all of what I guess you learned under Popovich, and even though it was a terrible kind of an exit, it helped Toronto gain some of that toughness. Has he failed in being able, not him, or has it just not worked with the Clippers soaking in what Kawhi brought to the team?
Well, see, I think a little bit different, too, because, Kawhi, as talented as Kawhi is, and as much of, quote-unquote, the man as he can be, I mean, to me, since the move to the Clippers, I think his personality has changed in how he's played, and frankly, how hard he plays.
Okay.
I really think he picks his spots much more than he ever did with San Antonio or Toronto, where he just went all out all the time. And certainly once he established himself, in San Antonio, it got to the point you simply could not stop him. But he's obviously very good offensively. He's still very efficient offensively. He's not nearly the defender, the one-on-one defender that he's been. And I'm not exactly sure why that is. I'm not sure why he's not dialed in the same way. And he's got a few steals here and there, but he's not the same one-man wrecking crew defensively that he's been in the past. And I think that the Clippers kind of need to they need the old Kawhi. That's, I think, the player they thought they were getting, because I do think the other guys sort of follow in what he does, and they've just not been very good defensively at all in this series. With the credit to the Mavericks for making a whole bunch of shots, but the Clippers have been so confused defensively on so many occasions in possession. I mean, you see time and again players looking at each other saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" And you're looking over at the bench and saying, "What are we doing?" It's not a very good situation for them right now at all, which the Mavericks will certainly take.
Yeah, Chuck, not all super teams are created equally. It's not just about the big moves that you make, but it's also, like you said, they haven't gotten the Kawhi that they wanted. Paul George has been good, but I don't know if they've really gotten the Paul George that they thought they were getting either, have they?
Well, Paul George is, I thought, really good this year. He had an excellent year, but for Paul George, the issue is always the playoffs, right? His numbers in the series generally are pretty good, except for his 3-point shooting so far. He's 3 of 15 from 3. But he's shooting 50%. He's not having any of these 4 for 19 games so far, like we saw in the bubble last year. He had a terrific fourth quarter last night. Was a huge part of the Clippers trying to make a run back at the Mavericks after they built a 14-point lead. So I put a lot less on him than I do on Kawhi, because Kawhi is the guy, and I think Kawhi does set the tone for how they play. And I don't think he's brought that same total killer mentality to these two games, certainly, or even go back to the last 3 games of the Denver series in the bubble. in his time with Toronto and San Antonio.
How much confidence, Chuck, is Tim Hardaway Jr. playing with right now?
Is there a number larger than infinite?
No, he looks just dynamic right now.
Well, ever since that game in Detroit, at the end of April, with dad in the stands, he went for 42 and he made 10 3-pointers. He's been next to unstoppable. I mean, he's shooting nearly 50% from three, way over that from the floor, and you just knew at the end of the game when they did get the ball out of Luka's hands, they tried to trap him. And Dorian Finney-Smith came up to the nail to receive that pass, and of course, there was Hardaway wide open at the right wing because they came out to try to trap Luka. Was there any question he was going to make that shot? There was absolutely none in my mind. And he fired it, made it, game over. And that's just the way he's played. It's been more than acceptable on the defensive end. We've seen him draw a bunch of charges. This year, the top 10 in the league in charges drawn. And he plays with an edge to him that is very useful at this time of the year.
Chuck, thank you, man. Appreciate it. It's been very impressive, no question about it. They're so explosive. How much, and we asked, all three of us talked about this. Dirk was there last night. Does that give him a little extra boost, or is they've seen him enough where that doesn't really matter?
Well, I think you if you saw the end, you saw Luka go find him.
Yeah.
I think Luka was pretty damn happy to see him, and because they haven't seen him very much. Now he was at a game. He's been at several games at home, and I want to say he was at a game on the road earlier this year, and I can't remember exactly where it was. But Dirk's not been around very much. He's been doing his own thing, and he's giving those guys space. But listen, anytime the greatest player in franchise history is in the building and you produce a performance worthy of that man's presence, then I think it did matter.
Absolutely.
And I think they really took to it.
Yep. Chuck, thank you so much for being available as much as you are. Good luck the rest of the way. Thank you.
All right, guys. Take care.
Chuck Cooperstein, voice of the Mavericks. By the way, last night, that Lakers and Phoenix series, Phoenix won the opening game. Chris Paul went down with an injury. I haven't seen any update on that.
He's been injured, and it sucks because Phoenix has no real chance without him, and he's clearly hobbled, clearly hurt, and had to miss large stretch of that game. So without a healthy Chris Paul, it's kind of what it is. But it would be fun to see what Phoenix could do if he was fully healthy and could actually go full force.